Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Good morning, Mags. I hope you are well. Joe is in chat. Solo Sky, good morning. Hidden, I hope you're all really well. Let's start the Monday show. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. January the 5th, 2026. We're already 5 days into the new year, and Bitcoin is playing nicely with us. What happened? We were like a beaten dog by the end of December, and then comes January, and here we are at $92,000. But I made a very specific video yesterday explaining where I think Bitcoin is going to go over the next 6 months, and I'm probably going to cover it in today's stream for those of you that haven't seen the video. If you don't know who we are Crypto Warehouse. I am Mike. We are streaming today. We are streaming tomorrow. We are streaming on Wednesday night with the Maple Quiz. The Oracle is back tonight. He's got his trading show, probably about 9 o'clock, I think. He'll be streaming probably Thursday as well and Saturday. So we are now getting back into the juicy bits of January. Never thought I'd be saying that. Now, before we begin, what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about XRP. We're going to be talking about Aave. We're going to be talking about Dupe, Polycheats. We're going to be talking about ADA, and then a very specific article that I found, which is to do with meme season. Packer mentioned it in a comment on one of our live streams a few days ago. And there was a meme pump before one of the Bitcoin pumps. And he believes, and a few people believe, that that is a precursor to a Bitcoin rip to the upside. And I'm here to be the damp squid and say this isn't going to happen. Mags is driving home from work, but he's listening to the stream. Mags, I promise not to make you laugh at any point during this stream, as I do on most streams. But anyway, I suppose we should go into the show, and wonders will never cease. The menu is back. The Oracle came back from Dubai, had a Christmas, and he is now fixing things. The menu is now working. You can see what we're going to be talking about there. We've got the markets, X-Files, and everything else I've just told you about. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you are well, sir. I hope it's... by the way, we've had Storm Francis now for what feels like 2 weeks. Storm Francis, it's flooded Spain. The banks have burst. The rivers have gone, and there's water everywhere. And it's been very wet. And I've been a little bit like a caged animal, to be honest, because you can't go out in a storm. There's nowhere to go. So hopefully Storm Francis will go by the wayside. But let's have a little look at the charts. Now, one thing to bear in mind, this beautiful outlay that we've got here, I'm probably going to update it. I'm going to keep the menu. I'm going to keep the ticker on the top. I'm probably going to get rid of the left-hand side and put something else there. I don't know what yet, but something else is going to go there. Maybe I'll go there. Maybe I'll go that way and go into the bottom left-hand corner and try and tighten it up with the Oracle. But let's have a look at the Bitcoin prices. Market cap of total of crypto is 3.15 trillion. We were below 3 trillion not that long ago. Bitcoin is coming in at $92,600. It's a trap. Okay. Ethereum, $3,165. Incredible performance. XRP, we were saying on Friday, we need XRP back above $2. We're back above $2. Our prayers have been answered. $2.13. BNB tickling the undercarriage of $900, and we like to see the undercarriage being tickled every once in a while. Solana, $135. Decent return there. We've got a few losers. Doge. I am getting cautiously optimistic that Dogecoin will drop out of the top 10. I think it's a hangover from days gone by, and nobody talks about it. I don't know anybody that uses it. It did hang on to the coattails of the Elon Musk tipping on X thing that happened a couple of years ago, and it was one of my big picks 2 Christmases ago. maybe 3 Christmases ago, it was one of my picks, and it hasn't moved. In fact, it's dropping quite nicely, and I'd like it to drop all the way. You know, if somebody said to me, you can click your fingers and remove 3 coins from here, what would I remove? I would remove Tron, I would remove Bitcoin Cash, and I would remove Dogecoin. I nearly said Cardano. I'd remove Dogecoin. I do that, and the 3 of them disappear. And you're all sitting there going, what's a Dogecoin? What's Tron? Wasn't that a really cool 1980s film that they've murdered in 2025? I would get rid of it, but there you go. Cardano is coming back in at 40 cents. That's nice. Chainlink at $13.50. Still a steal. Hype back above $25, $26.60. Zcash doesn't seem to want to go anywhere, even though I think we should stamp it out. Monero is up there as well. I don't think it's any coincidence that these 2 coins are next to each other. I think there is a certain amount of manipulation going on, but what do I know? Right, gainers and losers then in the last 24 hours. I'm expecting to see some big pumps. Virtuals is up, Render is up massively, ASI is up, but again, I'm going to cover this in a tweet in a second. Lighter is up. Lighter is going to be probably my next mini investment, okay? We are past the bull run. We are heading into the bear market. So everything is going to keep coming down for the next 6 months, but we might have a little bit of a rally. What makes Litecoin, what makes Aster, and what makes Hype a little bit different? Maybe not Hype, it's already at 8 billion, sorry. What makes them a little bit different is they're brand new coins. They haven't found their footing yet. So you can have a market, you can have a bear market where we're down another 50, 60%, and Lighter could go up another 100%. So I'm going to have a look at Lighter. Hype is up, Stacks is up, Flare, Aerodrome, anything under $1 is a bargain. Aerodrome, another good coin. I don't hold any of that, by the way. XRP is up. There's a lot of really solid projects in the top 10. Now, what has been the 2 top returning categories of 2026 so far? AI coins and meme coins. We're going to talk about the meme coin element in a little bit. But ASI, bear in mind, I was talking about $5 to $10. So I am not excited about a 28-cent ASI. I do have great hopes in the project. Now then, I suppose we'll look at losers. I'm not expecting much. Canton, Midnight is down. Zcash, Immutable X, Doge, Pepe, Quant, not a lot down. Pump.fun is down a tickle. I mean, the way to look at some of these losers, when the markets are having a green day and we look at the losers, what's good to look at is the 7-day. So Pepe is up 62%, Doge 18%, Immutable X 13%, Canton 12%, MYX Finance is up 51% in a week. A lot of these sell-offs, these are selling into profit takes. So they're taking their profits and they're selling when the market is green. Always a good strategy to think about that one. But anyway, I hold a few of those coins. I hold a few of the top coins. Doesn't mean that they're going anywhere. Now then, let's get into some X-Files because we only have 1 hour to do the stream. Good morning, Tariq. Now, what's exciting about that good morning is I can see Tariq on my phone from a distance of about 3 foot away because I now have Superman eyesight. These 4 quarters from 64, 63, 60 and 62, they're now worth $55. No wonder you can't afford a house. Why can't you afford the house? They broke money and looted our country. Very, very dramatic. But debasement is a thing. And debasement, very simply put, is where they make the money in your pocket worth less. And assets with a high rarity, such as gold, such as silver, nickel, Bitcoin is another example. These are all rarer assets, so they will increase in value over time. Look at the price of gold and silver over the last 6 months. They've gone up. Look at what's happened with inflation over the last 4 or 5 years. It's gone up 40%. That doesn't mean that you have 40% more money. It means the things that you buy are worth 40% more. So your €1 loaf of bread now costs you €1.50 or €1.60. That's what they mean. And that is why rich people get richer. You can blame the right, you can blame the left, you can talk about commies, you can talk about the other word that begins with F, you can talk about that as much as you want. If you print money, it becomes worthless over time. It doesn't matter who's in power. That's how it works. $166 million worth of crypto short positions liquidated in the past 24 hours as Bitcoin goes over 91,000. It's now at 92,500. We're going to see this kind of stuff as we go through this relief rally, which is what this is, and I'm going to talk about that later on. A couple of tweets from me have been thrown in here, by the way. On a Monday, don't forget, on a Monday, there's not a lot to talk about because we've got a weekend. Remember, this is a relief rally until it isn't. We might make it to $100,000, but that doesn't mean $260,000 Bitcoin is loading in 2026. It is what it says. It gives relief. Be careful you don't buy hype on every $2,000 to $5,000 move. If we get above 100,000 and hold, then get the sparklers out. I'll show you the chart on that in a minute because this is the most important thing I have been talking about since December, and that is the relief rally. Nothing ever goes up or down forever in a straight line or in a roundabout kind of line, okay? Even in a bull market, we get multiple 30% corrections. In a bear market, we get multiple relief rallies. Understand this. The odds of a January rate cut has fallen to 16.6% per CME Group. That doesn't seem to have affected the markets, which is interesting in itself because you'd think it would. Again, we'll talk about that with when we talk about Polymarket later on. Good morning, Danny. I hope you're well. By the way, Danny is running a competition on X that I can't show on the screen because we're on Binance. But Danny is giving away a Wolfie on X, and I can't give you more information than that. Go and find me and go and find the tweet I put out about it. Now, this is the important thing for everybody on Binance Square and everybody on YouTube. The new year, new quiz nights. We still haven't completed the calendar, so let's put that one there. We have one on the 7th, which is Wednesday. That will be Maple Finance. Then we have one on the 21st, which is the Wolfies quiz night. Both quiz nights will be run on both platforms. And remember how it works. If you're on Binance Square, listen carefully. We will collect all of your user IDs. And then the day after, or the weekend after, depending how busy we are, we will do the Crypto Warehouse Wheel of Fortune. And we will spin that wheel. And then we will pick 3 winners who will win the Maple Finance quiz and 3 winners who will win the Wolfies quiz. So there'll be 6 winners over those 2 nights from our quizzes. And then obviously for the people that watch on YouTube and they play and they interact, they will be able to win on the night. Okay? They will win on the night. So they're the 2 that we have in situ. We've missed a lot of things out. We haven't done the year-end, end-of-year awards. We didn't do the Christmas quiz, and we haven't done a New Year quiz yet. So they're the ones we have at the minute, but there will be more. Okay? I just don't know what they're going to be yet. And also, we may have parted ways. I think I mentioned this on Friday. We may have parted ways with Mew. We haven't heard from them since November. And when the Oracle was out in Dubai in December, they normally have a stand at Solana Breakpoint. They weren't at Solana Breakpoint. So we don't know what's going on with Mew. But it doesn't mean we don't like the project. It doesn't mean anything. It just means we haven't been able to get hold of them. So because of that, we haven't got the Mew quiz lined up. We might do another one instead. And we are talking to people at the minute about bringing on partners. But it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky. Because if we're going to stream it on Binance, it has to be either an educational stream or it has to be a token listed on Binance. For example, Maple Finance, the token Syrup, and Syrup USDC, they're both listed on Binance, so we can run it on Binance. Wolfies is an NFT project, and it's quite a cool NFT project, so it's more about education, about NFTs and all that kind of stuff, so that kind of works as well. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to go and find XYZ Mike and then just start randomly advertising a coin. It's not how it works. We're going to try and pick bigger people. Now, this is a tweet from Serenity that is doing the rounds. You will see this post that Venezuela has got $60 billion in its Bitcoin shadow reserve. That's what you're going to see. And you're going to see maybe the screenshot down there. People have been reposting this and reposting this. And this, I've got a question. Let me get to the question. Why is Bitcoin pumping, says Rick? It's pumping, Rick, because we're in what's called a relief rally. And I'm going to show you that when we talk about Bitcoin in a minute. It's a relief rally. When a stock market crashes, it has a dead cat bounce if it's on its way down. And what that means is that where that saying comes from, it means even a dead cat will bounce. That's a dead cat bounce. So what happened is Bitcoin's gone from 126. It came down to 80 odd thousand. Okay. And it was a sharp drop. It lost a third. Then we've had a little bit of 2 or 3 weeks of just staying at kind of the same price. And now we're moving back up. And this is a relief rally because the market needs some relief. Very simply put. I don't know whether you can say dead cat bouncing on certain platforms because of the words involved with that. So it's a relief rally. Anyway, this is not true. What's on your screen now is a lie. Venezuela does not hold 600,000 Bitcoin. And the reason I know this is I bothered to read through what was said. I worded this too strongly in my original post. This is speculation. This is being retweeted by everybody. And he admits on his post that it is speculation. Now, there is this big thing about disinformation. You've heard, whatever she's called, the lady in charge of the EU talking about it. You've heard Keir Starmer talking about it. And you might not like that. And I don't like it either. But the question is this. He's kept this up on X. It's not been community noted. And 335,000 people now believe that Donald Trump has gone and seized 600,000 Venezuelan Bitcoins, right? He said himself it's speculation, right? But this is now being tweeted out as fact. And that's what happens. So don't believe everything you read on the internet. And when it comes to watching people like me, don't believe a word that comes out of anybody's mouth, including mine. Don't believe anybody. Don't believe CZ. Don't believe Michael Saylor. Don't believe Willy Woo. Don't believe Rich Dad Poor Dad. Don't believe Kathy Wood. Because those people, not me, those people are far bigger, far more popular than I am. Raoul Powell is another example. Listen to what they have to say and take on board the facts that fit in with what you say. Remember what Ronald Reagan once said. Do not trust, verify. Okay? It's a very simple saying. It's been around since the dawn of mankind. Verify the information. I didn't have to go very far to find out that that guy admitted it was speculation. They sold gold and they sold silver, and then somewhere along the lines, they ended up holding 600,000 Bitcoin. Now, maybe they have got Bitcoin, and maybe it is going to be seized by Donald Trump. Maybe. All of those things are a maybe. But when a maybe becomes a fact, you understand why people don't believe scientists anymore, because maybes become facts, and then those facts turned out to be incorrect. Bitcoin's widespread correction unlikely after US strike on Venezuela. I've got to be very careful why I talk about this and what I talk about with this, because we're not a politics channel, but you can't ignore macro events. If you remember last year, there was the big thing going on in the Middle East. If we can go further back, Eastern Europe. If we go further back, we've got the pandemic. Those things affect Bitcoin, so you can't do a crypto stream without looking at the macro. Now, you might have noticed that we haven't got the charts day today. One of the things I'm going to do is not do the charts day on one day. I'm not just going to do it on a Monday anymore. If there is global news, I'm just going to cover it in one article, and that happens to be this. People predicted that the price of Bitcoin would come crashing down because of what happened in Venezuela. It didn't, okay? And the reason it didn't is that depending on who you are, this was a good thing. Depending on who you are, this was a very bad thing. But Bitcoin doesn't care, and the people that try and make money out of crypto, they don't care either. So I don't think we'll see a widespread correction based on Venezuela, says Trading Capital founder Michael van der Popp. Now, you remember Michael van der Popp, didn't he sell all of his Bitcoin to buy Ethereum? I think. It'd be great to see how much he made off that trade. The US, I've got to be very careful what words I read out. It happened on Saturday, took 30 minutes. It will not affect the price of Bitcoin. It's already past us. Bitcoin tends to struggle around geopolitical uncertainty. That is true. But I would take this word out and I would use this word. It struggles around uncertainty, as does everything. What goes up during uncertainty is things like gold. Gold and silver and precious metals, they do go up. Oil sometimes goes up depending on who's involved. But Bitcoin struggles on uncertainty. If we don't know about rate cuts, if we don't know who the president of America is, if we don't know about what else happens in the world, what's going to go on in Taiwan or things like that, that weighs on Bitcoin. Bitcoin does not need a reason to go up. Bitcoin will merrily go up along its way. But you look at the majority of the big corrections to the downside that Bitcoin has had. Those have been because of things outside of Bitcoin. Look at the Trump Liberation Day. We went to $74,000. Okay, these things do affect crypto, and you have to understand this. If you're new to crypto, do not sit there and see it in a bubble. Don't sit there with your bag of, think of a coin, Bitcoin Cash. Don't sit there with your bag of Bitcoin Cash and wonder why everything in the world is going down and Bitcoin Cash is going down even more. And don't think, oh, well, I don't know why I picked Bitcoin Cash. I should have picked Bitcoin. But because Bitcoin will be going down. The majority of things that go on affect everything. And there are times when Bitcoin moves independent of stocks and gold and things like that, yes. But on the whole, when something big like this happens, it does affect the markets. So we're now above $90,000. The one thing I wanted to show you was this. And this is in my video that I made yesterday. And this is what I've been talking about since December. So this is not new. This is not something I've pulled out of thin air. And by the way, also interesting point, a certain Cowan was talking about this same thing today. Just let me get rid of these horrific looking charts that have been drawn by somebody. Okay, so we're going to drag this back over here. I'm not going to spend too long on this because it's not that important, but I just want to show you something, okay? So we had a very, very good point from Ricky, who's probably left the chat now. Why is Bitcoin going up when, you know, at the start of the year? Now, this is a rough pattern. Listen, it's a rough pattern. It is not meant to match up. This is back in 2021 and 2022. We had our double top, April and then November. We then came down and put in a low in January before we recovered to the bull market support band, and we went up from 32 to 48,000. So we had a 50% move to the upside. And then we got rejected at this thing here, which is called the bull market support band. These lines that you're seeing doing this. This is the bull market support band. It's an average. That's all you need to care about. Now, remember the pattern, not exact the pattern. Now, if I do this to roughly there, this is the pattern I think we have got. We have had a run up to our first high, which I believe was in January. Then we had our second run up, which was to October. Then we've had our move to the downside. And then, or now, should I say, we are going to have our relief rally to the bull market support band. That's what my 8-minute video that I made yesterday was saying. At this point here, at $100,000, Bitcoin has a decision to make. Based on history and based on patterns, that decision is to fall down. Now, if we come down and we follow a similar pattern, we get to about May. May is when we get the new chairman of the Fed. Coincidence? Probably. May is also the start of summer. So, what we are likely to see is this kind of move where we go up to about $100,000, maybe we go a little bit higher, and then we come down here, and then we wobble around a bit, and then we start to move back up. Now, my prediction is not a very brave one, by the way. My prediction is that we will finish 2026 higher than we started it. My coffee percolator is going off. I heard a very strange noise. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, if we want to say that this isn't the end of the bull run, and somebody commented on the video and said this might not be the end of the bull run, there is a really simple way for us to know if that is the case. And that is that we do this. We actually just break up and we do that. And that is the other scenario. But this here, this 100,000 line, well, it's actually a little bit less. It's like 99,800. But the top of the bull market support band is 102, 103,000. If we break them and we go up and we hold them as support, then fine. We go on to a new all-time high in 2026. But the pattern has to be broken. And the pattern doesn't look like it's going to break. It's a relief rally at best right now. 93, 95, 98, $99,000. We could spend the next 3 weeks going up. We could spend the next 3 weeks going to $100,000. And you will be relieved. And that's why it's called a relief rally. You'll be relieved. Your alts will gain. The decision has to be, at this point, do you sell some of your crypto at a profit? That's the question to ask. If this is a relief rally, we've got another 10% to go in Bitcoin. 10% in Bitcoin could be another 20 or 30% to go. Now, this is the question that I tweeted out today. And this is the thing that I want to kind of leave this point with, because I don't want to labor the point, but this is the point I want to raise on here. I mentioned FET before at 30 cents. It was at $3.60. But this is the point that I want to bring up right now when we scroll down to it. And this is a warning to you. This is the warning. Okay? You are seeing... So Sean Brown, he's the head of social media at Cointelegraph. Huge. Ondo is up 14.3%. You're going to think that's an amazing headline. Huge. Ondo is down 71.26%. Now, in 12 months, Ondo has gone from 150.160 to 44 cents. It's dropped 71%. Now, I got into Ondo at between 80 cents and $1. I think I bought 3 or 4 times around that price. So I am down 75%. Doesn't matter. I like the project. Maple got into that project at 14 cents. Still, doesn't matter whether I'm up or down. I believe in the project. Now, the question you've got to ask yourself is, if you got into Ondo at, let's say, 60 cents, and we do have this relief rally back to 102, 103,000, and the alts pop off, and we have a mini alt season, and everybody tells you we're going to have an alt season, and Ondo goes up to about 70 or 80 cents, your decision then has to be, do I take profit? If I got in at 60 or 70 cents, and we're at 70, 80 cents, whatever it might be, do I take some profits? Because Ondo could run back up towards 80 cents, 70 cents. FET could easily go back over $1 or $2. And that's not even getting back to where it was at the start of last year. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. If you zoom in, we're up 14.29%. If you zoom out, we're down 71% in a year. And it's not quite the glass half full, glass half empty. It's more a case of perspective. And the perspective is a lot of the coins that I have been buying into, that I bought into in January 2023, I am still up massively on a lot of those coins. Some of those coins I'm not up massively on. Cardano, I got in at whatever it was, 20 cents. We're now at what, 30, 40 cents. XRP we got in at 40 cents, I think. That's now at $2.14. So some of my alts have really outperformed. Others have performed really, really poorly. And the question you've got to ask yourself is, do you want to take profit if this is just a relief rally? Now, you might be holding an alt that is massively down. The question then is, do you just hold it? Do you take the loss? If you take the loss, how big a loss are you willing to take? If you take the loss, do you go into Bitcoin? Or is there something else you've got your eye on? That's the next question. But again, let's see how this relief rally goes. But keep everything in perspective. Coins are pumping now, but they're still down 60 or 70%. Think about that. It's great that you've got this relief, but don't hold on to those bags expecting them to go straight back to where they were last year when we had that little mini alt season and everything was pumping. You know, I think Chainlink got to $25. Hype was a great example at $60. Hype's at $26 today. It's up 11 or 12%, but it's still less than half of what it was 6 months ago. Think about where you go from here. Now, Gasparino Mux XRP holders, how much did Brad Garlinghouse profit off your idiocy? This isn't a very nice article, is it? Gasparino has reignited his long-standing feud with the XRP army on Sunday, mocking retail investors as idiots who serve as unwitting exit liquidity for Ripple's wealthy executives. Now, some breaking news from the world of XRP. That gentleman with the beard that was at XRP, he has stepped down. And I haven't covered that because I think it only happened late last night. But the guy with the beard and the glasses with the really good long hair, he is now no longer at XRP. Don't know why. It will come out in the wash. So, Fox Business Network senior correspondent Charles Gasparino started feuding with the army again. In a series of blistering posts, he took aim at the intelligence of retail investors holding the token. The controversial host has questioned whether they realise they are ostensibly serving as exit liquidity for Ripple executives. He flared up when he responded to a user regarding the financial logic of holding the asset. Setting aside the idiocy of you holding XRP thinking you're going to get rich, how much did Brad Garlinghouse and the gang profit off your idiocy? Sad, haha. Now, again, childish. I don't know when the world went wrong. People had a little bit more class that I remember. Anyway, maybe I'm remembering it with rose-tinted spectacles. But I don't think calling people losers on the internet is really going to progress you in your life. Gasparino had previously claimed credit for putting the XRP community on the map in a mainstream way, has spent the better part of 2025 and 2026 sparring with community stalwarts. The personality has frequently characterized the community as a cult of bag holders. Now, this I absolutely do agree with. And this is the one problem with crypto, is that people create cults. And if you buy something outside of your cult, then you're ostracized. And that is BS. That's nonsense. You hold your Solana, you hold your Ethereum, you hold your Bitcoin, you hold your Cardano, you hold whatever it might be. That's it. These maxis, I agree with the cult of bag holders analogy entirely there. Whenever Mr. Germany doesn't have money for a bratwurst or a little schnitzel because he lost it all in XRP, this clown shows up on my timeline. Sorry, this isn't helping XRP cult of back holders. Rich, as far as management's concerned, they've already cashed out. Again, I would not say that... I wouldn't say that that is probably the most highbrow or intellectual conversation about XRP. And what I think we want to do is get away from this kind of nonsense. 2025, one of my goals was to talk about revenue and profits and the growing up of the industry and focusing on projects that add wealth, add value, all of that kind of stuff. Now, do I believe that XRP is profiting off its followers? Absolutely. I also believe Ethereum is, and Solana is, and everybody who runs a chain profits off their users. I don't care who you are, they all do it because you buy their tokens. And at some point, they sold them. And at some point, you sold it to somebody else for a profit. So somebody that had $120 XRP sells it for $140. Those $140 XRP set the price. The OGs, they gain because they've still got their original bags. So I would say everybody profits off XRP that comes from the Ripple lab, whatever you want to call it. So I don't agree that this is XRP specific. They all profit. There are very few projects which are 100% airdropped. There are very few projects where you have to work for your money, like Bitcoin, for example. Very few of them. So I would be careful, if I was Gasparino, of tying yourself in knots having a go at XRP. I think XRP is big enough and ugly enough to make big waves. Even its stablecoin, XRP stablecoin, I think even that will do incredibly well. But only time will tell. Now then, this is an interesting one. Jupiter CTO explains why Jupe buybacks may end. Now, again, I've got a love-hate relationship with buybacks. So we'll cover this and I'll explain what it is in a minute. So, we spent more than $70 million on buybacks last year, and the price obviously didn't move. We can use the $70 million to give out for growth incentives for existing and new users. This was the CTO, Slong Ong. Now, this is probably made up. This person is... Oh, no, sorry, Seong Ong. Okay. This person, it could just be their ex-personality. I don't know if that's their real name. Okay, because obviously the CEO of Jupe is called Meow, and that's obviously not his real name. So I don't know whether this is Seong Ong. I don't know whether that's their stage name. Who knows? So this was talking about stopping the buybacks. So Jupiter initiated the buyback program in February and has reportedly spent $70 million. Jupe did go up, but it went up with the market. The token has printed new yearly lows in 2025 despite aggressive buybacks that were previously viewed as bullish. At a press, it traded at 20 cents. It was at $1.80. My target for Jupe, by the way, is about $5, just to put that into context. With 753 million Jupe staked, that's 9 cents per Jupe. For me personally, that would be a nice passive income. That's a 43% dividend yield. Now, we're not going to go into the ins and outs of the prices on Jupe because that's not important. What's important is to understand the philosophy behind buybacks. Buybacks exist in stocks. Buybacks exist in crypto. Hype, Aster, Maple Finance, Jupe, all do buybacks. The issue that I've got with Jupiter, and I've said this many, many times before, is they don't have enough old heads. They're young, and they're inexperienced, and they make mistakes. And there's no other way to put it than that. They make mistakes. And having a buyback and burn program in place and then 10 months later talking about scrapping it is inexperience of youth. If you've got a $1 billion project and you do a buyback for $10 million a quarter, it's not going to make any difference. Crow is the perfect example of that. There are 30 billion Crow in circulation, and they do a quarterly buyback of about 50 million Crow. It's not going to make a dent. Utter waste of time, okay? Whoever decided on some of these things in the Cronos community should be sacked. Sacked and thrown out the door. Jupiter doesn't fall into that category. Jupiter bought back $70 million. And as far as I'm aware, their market cap is not that high. And the thing to understand about a buyback, and I've said this analogy at least 2 or 3 times now, it is like emptying a bath. They've unplugged their bath, and 5 minutes later gone, the bath is still full of water. The bath's still full of water. It's not gone anywhere. We need to stop doing this. We need to put the plug back in. And what we need to do is we need to pour more water in. That's the analogy to use. Now, they have a market cap of $684 million. They bought back $70 million in 1 year. That's 10% of the market cap. These things take time. And if you give away the buybacks to the people holding the Jupe, do you know what the people holding the Jupe are going to do? They're going to sell it. And do you know what's going to happen to the price? It's going to come down. This is the idiocracy of some elements of crypto who don't understand how things work. If they buy $70 million and the market cap goes to $350 million, they will have bought back 20% of the market cap in a year. If it goes to $700 million and doesn't really move an awful lot, they'll still be buying 10% of the market cap every year. Now, they burnt 3 billion tokens So now the tokens are gone. The circulating supply is almost 100%. They need to keep going with the burn. That's the long and short of it. You're not going to see success in 10 months. And again, nobody will listen. Nobody will listen. They will go ahead and they will pay out this dividend of 753 million or whatever it is they've got, 300 million, whatever they buy. And I just think this is nonsense. I think this is absolutely nonsense. Revenue sharing. Buybacks for Dupe don't work because they're buybacks. They don't work because people don't see a reason to hold Dupe. Now, the reason... Now, Fabiano, by the way, he's one of the top, for me, top commentators on Solana. And what he says is normally very, very succinct, very, very knowledgeable. Give people a reason to hold the token. Now, if I say to you, we're going to buy back $70 million worth of this token, and the token value is 10 billion, you're not going to touch the price. If the token value has $600 million and you're buying back $70 million, I'm going to do the rough math in my head and say that this is going to move the price over time. And the issue is not the buyback mechanism. The issue is what circulating supply are you taking out? Hype, very successful. Aster will be very successful. Dupe, very successful, but they can't see it with their own eyes. Crow, garbage. Absolute garbage. Okay? 200 million Crow a year, and it hasn't been burnt in ages, by the way. 200 million Crow a year, gone out of a circulating supply of 30 billion. So it's going to take them 5 years to burn 3% of the supply. Trash. Utter trash. However, burning 10% of the supply, which is what they should do, by the way, burn 10% of the supply every year, suddenly we're thinking, well, at some point it's going to run out. Now, this is a long-term project. This is a long-term thing for them to do. They're not going to be able to do it overnight. And the problem is, it's the TikTok generation of, I want this in 30 seconds. No, this takes years. And you're building a project that you want to be around for years. So why do you care? Just keep burning the tokens. Over time, you will drain the supply. When there is not enough Bitcoin on exchanges, guess what? Price goes up. Ethereum, price goes up. When there's not enough toilet paper in your supermarket because of the pandemic, guess what happens to the price of toilet paper? It goes up. It is supply and demand. There's too much supply of a token, in this case Dupe, to warrant a higher price. The buyback should have worked, and the buyback will work if they stick to it, but they won't listen, and they're going to end up ruining Dupe. Aave, leading lending protocol Aave hits new record high for ETH deposits. Again, this is... The way I would look at it is this: people are battening down the hatches for a bear market. What are you going to lock up your ETH for? You're going to lock it up because you think you're going to be holding it for a couple of years. That's what this says to me. The Aave platform has emerged as the leader of Ethereum-based lending, setting a new record. Ethereum deposits have steadily increased since 2024, reached an all-time high. As of January, Vitalik Buterin has acknowledged that Ethereum benefits greatly from low-risk DeFi and sees it as a stepping stone. According to token terminal data, the amount of Ethereum deposited on Aave has reached an all-time high, crossing 3 million ETH and 4 million ETH as of January. Now, 4 million ETH, what's the supply? 120 million? So almost 4% of ETH is on Aave. Pretty impressive, really. I mean, we can compare it to lots of things. We're not going to compare it to Lido, but we compare it to a lot of things. That is pretty decent. So DeFi Alarm published its top 10 protocol list by TVL, naming Aave as the number one. Again, one of the things that I think is going to happen this year is the likes of Binance and others are going to start to bring DeFi into their apps and their platforms. So I would expect to see Aave products listed on Binance. I would expect to see Camino Finance products listed on Binance. I know some of them already are. I know you can get Solve Protocol Bitcoin rewards. I know that, but I'm talking about the actual DeFi platforms themselves being put into the centralized exchanges, because what would happen in a traditional market is the centralized banks would try and bring something in to outlaw their competition. They can't do that in crypto because crypto is by definition decentralized. It's on the blockchain. So what they have to do is work with them. Now, if Aave can pay you 3% on your Ethereum, Binance will pay you 2.9 and take a small cut. So it will get its fees from that way. And you'll be happy with 2.9% because you're within the wrapper and the safety net of Binance. That's the way I would look at it. Now, of course, there's going to be loads of people out there disagreeing with me. Not your keys, not your crypto. Absolutely fine. And you are one of the 0.1%. 99,999 people out of 100,000 are not going to be able to do what you do. Think of that. So they need to use Binance and they need to put it in there. Look at the kids program that Binance are offering. If you're under 18, you can have your own Binance app and your parents will look after it. So everything is safe. And if you've got two-factor authentication, if you've got anti-phishing, if you've got the SMS thing turned on, if you've got all the security settings turned on, you should sleep well at night. But I think Aave being wrapped in is brilliant because Aave, they are one of the biggest success stories of crypto. They simply are. And I've never fancied them because they don't appeal to me. The chain that they were on when they started out, the fees involved, you needed a certain amount of money to get up to speed with using the likes of Aave. And I just didn't want to take that risk. My ETH has been staked ever since it could be staked. Before then, it just sat there doing nothing. I mined ETH, but I would never go and use Aave because the fees were too high. And now the fees are a lot lower, which is great. I no longer use them because I use different ways to earn a yield. So it's processed billions in debt, recording over $3 billion in borrowed funds at the start of 2024. That's gone to $30.5 billion when it reached its all-time high in September. Now, as I was saying, I think Aave is one of the best DeFi projects out there. I am not going to sit here and suggest for 1 minute that you take your funds and you go over to Aave and you start depositing them on there, because if you're a beginner, just use what's on Binance or whatever other exchange you're on. Aave is good and will be fantastic for institutional players. The same way Maple Finance is going to explode because it deals with institutional players. What do people do when they've got 100 Bitcoin or 500 Bitcoin or 1,000 Bitcoin? How do they tap into that liquidity? They take out loans against it. That's how the world works. So the likes of Aave are going to do incredibly well. The likes of Maple Finance are going to do incredibly well out of this bear market that we're likely to see. Polymarket bets spark insider trading fears before Maduro capture. This is one of the issues when you have... How do I get rid of that? Out of the bottom right-hand corner. You know what they've done? They've put that over this, so I can't click to get rid of it. Swines. Now, we're not going to go into the ins and outs of this because we've already covered Venezuela. But one thing to bear in mind with stuff like this is... I'm trying to work out how to phrase this. If you decentralize something, you also remove a lot of regulation. And if you remove a lot of regulation, you create a market which is open to abuse. That's probably the nicest way I could say it. By the way, I have a funny feeling that I rub my nose so much on these streams because I have a fan behind my head and I think it's blowing dust at me. So I think I might need to stop using the fan. Polymarket bets spark insider trading. I think this is a problem of the industry, not a problem of Polymarket. Polymarket is the biggest, therefore it will attract the most of this. Now, what I think we need to do is I think the likes of Polymarket and other big liquidity platforms like this, I think they need to work with authorities to somehow come to a middle ground to stop this abuse. And I think this is going to be the key. Now, let me explain something without saying any words because I can't really give away names on here. There's a very large exchange that has started offering a white label predictions market service. And they are regulated. They fall under the money transfer laws and everything else, money transmission laws, all that kind of stuff. They've already got all of that. So has Binance, by the way. I think the likes, and this is going to sound crazy, I think the likes of Binance are perfectly suited to offering predictions markets because you have to have KYC and AML and all that kind of good stuff. Because if you don't, you get lawlessness and the industry itself will get a bad name. So I think these decentralized platforms like Polymarket, they need to become regulated. I don't care how it's done, it needs to be regulated because this abuse is going to get worse and worse and worse. And put it this way, if somebody, and we saw this with the Bitcoin price and Trump, didn't we? If somebody comes along and certainly and starts to solely trade on Venezuela and Maduro-related results without any other trading activity, they're an insider. And if they're an insider, they need to be held accountable because insider trading is illegal. It's illegal in stocks and shares, but as far as I'm aware, you've got the gambling ones, where they say how many corners are going to be taken, how many free kicks are going to be taken, all that kind of good stuff. Basketball has been riddled with cheating for years and years and years. This has to be stamped out, and that's why this section is called Poly Cheats, because it's cheating, and you are not playing with the same deck of cards that these people are playing with. And what I would say is if you do use Kalshi and you do use Polymarket, be very careful about seeing stuff like this and thinking that you're just going to go against it because you're likely to lose, because insider trading is we don't want it. We don't want it. Now then, we've got two more articles, and again, I've broken this up into a little bit more of variety rather than just running through them in the same order. Is Cardano headed for 10 cents or $3? AI lays out ADA's 2026 paths by Gary Ponce, which is a really, really unfortunate name if you happen to be from the UK. You don't want to be called a Ponce if you live in the UK. Okay? Now, Gary, I don't know whether this is Gary's real name or it's not a good name in the UK. You don't want to be called that. Right, Cardano closed 2025 down 60% after volatility and failed breakouts. AI forecasts 2026 could range from further downside to long consolidation. A bullish revival depends on real ecosystem usage, not speculation alone. Cardano went from 30 cents to $1.30. Charles was involved with the White House. It felt like Cardano was back in the spotlight and staying there. I remember a time I turned on a really good Cardano streamer, probably one of the best that I like to watch when I want Cardano news. And he was crying on his stream because Cardano had gone above $1. And he was in tears, he couldn't talk. And it was nice to see because it's a conviction play. And he's a Cardano maxi and he's massively into Cardano. And fair play to him. But that was short-lived. And again, my target for Cardano was $3 to $5. I was equally in that camp of thinking we were going to go so much higher, and we didn't. If I had to put money on one of these two titles, however, for 2026, believe it or not, I would actually go for $3. I don't think Cardano is going to go down to 10 cents this year. I think it could go down to 20 cents. Absolutely. It could drop another, 35%. But I think we're close to the bottom. Price-wise, I think we're close to the bottom. Bitcoin may go back to 70,000, 65,000. I don't think Cardano is going to go to 10 cents. I don't think it's got another 66% move to the downside. And I know what you're all going to say. Everybody who says it can't go down, it's gone down 99%, it can't go down another 99%. I've heard that before. If you listen to certain streamers, they'll say the same thing. Anything goes down 90%, it can go down 90% more. I get that. I just don't think with a Cardano ETF, with Cardano becoming part of other ETFs, with Midnight and with all of these other things, I just don't see Cardano at 10 cents, which is why $3 is not massively more likely, but more likely than 10 cents. So after a frustrating year, AI forecasts suggest the pressure could continue. One scenario flagged by ChatGPT, which we don't listen to, ADA may struggle to regain relevance amongst large cap altcoins. It could slide towards 10 to 15 cents, levels not seen since deep bear market conditions. Losing remaining support could trigger capitulation amongst the long-term holders. A more likely base case route, this is probably a little bit better. A prolonged period of consolidation. ADA would be in a range between 30 and 80 cents. I agree. Believe it or not, I agree with this. I think 30 and 80 cents is a good range for a bear market for Cardano. What I would say is, and I've said this to you time and time again, and I want you to listen to this. Peak euphoria leads to peak capitulation. We did not get peak euphoria. We did not get to where we were supposed to go. Now, 2021, we got to $69,000. That was peak euphoria. Social interest was through the roof. And then we had a brutal bear market because as it came down, we got kicked with Luna, kicked with FTX, Celsius, all that kind of stuff. We've not had any of that. We are going to get a flat line where we come down, but we don't come down too far. I know people are talking about $40,000, $50,000 for Bitcoin. But please bear in mind, in the worst bear market we ever had back in 2022, we came down to the previous all-time high, which was about 16, 17, 18,000. Previous all-time high from where we are today is 69,000. So why are we going to have the worst bear market ever when we don't have the conditions for the worst bear market ever? No peak euphoria, no peak capitulation. There's nobody to sell. There's nobody to capitulate. We've seen the OGs leave. They all left at $100,000. They've gone. Right? Gone. So who's left to sell? So that's why I don't believe we're going to see a 20 cent XRP, a 10 cent Cardano. It doesn't mean I'm bullish. I'm not massively bullish for 2026, but I'm not overly bearish because I don't see any headwind that causes those prices other than a massive black swan. And there's a couple of them knocking around, especially if Trump has his way. So I think 30 to 80 cents would be a great range for ADA. And the question you've got to ask yourself is, if we do have this relief rally back to 103,000 and ADA goes to 80 cents, and you bought when we did at 20 cents, do you sell for 4x? That's the question. XRP could very well go back towards $3. We got in at whatever it was, 30, 40 cents. I need to get the actual price we bought XRP at. I think it was 35, 40 cents, but I'm not sure. Well, that would be a 7x. Do we get those gains from when we bought, or do we just ride it into the next bull market? That's the question. Now, the bull case, which I don't agree with, is $2 to $3. I think we could touch $2 in a really, really bullish setup, which we're not going to have. But that middle range there, the more likely case, I think 30 to 80 cents is the range that we're going to be in for the rest of the year. I'm wholeheartedly on board with that. Now, I've got to be careful I don't run out of time. I think I've got 3 minutes left for the last article. And this one is for Packer. Now, also, chat, I need to have a word. When you watch our streams, just randomly type stuff, okay? We're trying to get some level of traction back on YouTube, and it's difficult because everybody's down 90%. The people that I used to watch, they've lost 90% of their viewership. Easily 90% of their viewership. Just type lol, hi, hello, whatever it might be. Because YouTube watches us, and then you're watching us, and you don't say anything to us. You don't like, you don't comment, you don't do anything. So YouTube just thinks that we're talking to a wall. And maybe we are talking to a wall. Mags is driving his car. He can't talk. Danny's probably trying to get to the end of his amazing quick. I still can't believe he's doing that giveaway, by the way. So there's lots of things going on, and I understand that. But just once in a while, like Mary's just done, just type hi. That's all I'm asking for. It just helps us a little bit. And, you know, what we're going to do for Oracle streams, by the way, and I'll let him talk about it, we're going to run a little competition. Because when you watch the Oracle, He does a lot of information giving about the charts and the setups and the directions and things like that. But nobody talks on his streams as well. And he's going to start doing a kind of giveaway on his trading streams. Binance is going to be entered as well. Maybe we'll do it once a week. If you comment on Binance, you comment on YouTube, you'll all be put into a wheel spin, and one of you is going to win every week. So he's going to do something to kind of incentivize this kind of interaction. Because ideally, what I'd love to do one day is have an AMA, right? But there's just not enough questions to go over in an hour. There's just not. And I don't want, I don't want Danny or Tariq sitting there or Kishan sitting there for half an hour trying to think of questions to ask me. So we're not at the stage where we can do AMAs. We're not big enough on YouTube. We are big enough on Binance to do an AMA, and maybe we do it on Binance instead. But a little bit of interaction once every 5 minutes from 5 or 6 people will do our streams wonders, because the stream is based on interactivity and whether you like watching it or not. Anyway, I've gone off on a massive tangent. Meme coin rally in early 2026, bull trap or real risk on revival. And this is what Paco was talking about on one of the videos that we put up. Maybe it was the Friday video. And he was saying that a few years ago, before we had a really big blow-off bull run, we had the meme season. Now, memes, I said this a few weeks ago, luckily memes died down. They went away. Shh, 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 go away, right? And they disappeared. And it was lovely. And it's not that I don't like memes. I do. I like Mew. I like Brett. I like Bonk. I like Pepe. I like Floki. What other coins are really good? Shiba Inu, yes. So I do like them, but they're not really meme coins. They're more community coins. And I've always had this separation between, you can't have an image and some tweets and then expect a $200 million market cap. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I used to struggle with this. When I first started making these videos 3 or 4 years ago, I was slating Bonk, slating Pepe, slating all of these meme coins because it doesn't make any sense to me. I come from a business world. If you make $100 and it costs you $60 to make that money, you make $40 gross profit. That's the world I come from. This world is, I'm going to make a coin and I'm going to call it Dino Mike. And it's going to be me as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And I'm going to make a web page and a Twitter account. And I'm going to put it up there. And I'm going to say pre-sale, pre-sale, pre-sale. And you'll all send me $150 to buy this token. And I'll end up with 100, 200 sol. So I've made my few $1,000s out of that. And then you end up with a token that's worthless, has no roadmap, and just says Dino Mike. Right? That's the issue. However, beside the point, let me just check this for a second. Oh, by the way, we have a poll question of the day. The poll question is, will Bitcoin put in a new all-time high in 2026? Woo! 55% have said yes. 45% have said no. 55% of you think we're going to have 126,000 plus. That's incredible. You are braver people than I. I think we'll be lucky. I think 90 to 100,000 by the end of this year. An amazing target. But you know what? I'd love you all to prove me wrong. You know that. I'd love you all to prove me wrong. Now somebody's drilling outside. So, we're going to get to the end of this. Meme coins are leading crypto's rebound into the new year. Over the past 7 days, the meme sector's market cap rose 21% to 45.3 billion. Pepe, useless coin. I mean, they're even telling you it's got no value. Jumped 54%. Mog is up. Bonk, Floki, 2 good coins there. They're also up. Social and volume metrics expanded alongside prices. Trading volume rose sharply, confirming that attention, not just prices, return. The data highlights a classic meme cycle. I'm not a fan of meme cycles. The post-holiday reset. After the holiday calm, retail traders returned with risk in mind. Now, what I would say, I'm going to close this down now because we're done on that. Don't buy meme coins. Please don't buy meme coins. It's not financial advice. clearly, we don't give financial advice. I'm just giving you an opinion. This is education. But at the end of the day, they have no inherent value, and they don't aim to give you anything. They don't give you value. What I would say is that the likes of Bonk are not meme coins. Okay? They're a meme culture. They are a community project, but they are listed on all the major exchanges. They're listed on Revolut. They're listed on Robinhood. They have their own bots. They have their own decks. They are not a meme coin. They are not a meme coin. Pepe, Shiba Inu, they're not meme coins anymore. Okay? They're community projects that have grown. And there is room for more of them. Mew, who we don't talk about anymore, but we do. Mew bought an animation studio in America to make cartoons. They're now a movement. They're a meme movement. They've got sponsorships in drag racing, which we've covered before on some of the quizzes that we've done. So Mew are not a meme coin. There is a difference between useless and real meme culture. So just be careful of that. Now, it's 12:05. I've got to go. But the Oracle is streaming tonight on Binance Square and YouTube. The prodigal son is back, and he's got a new UI. That's all I'm going to say to you. Very good information. I have some Pepe and Bonk to which I can convert. So I think Pepe and Bonk, if you're going to hold meme coins, which should be a very, very small part of your portfolio, if you're going to hold them, then Pepe and Bonk are two really good shouts. As is, some of the others I've just mentioned. Floki, also a good shout. Floki wants to become a bank and offer its own card, things like that. So yeah, just look after yourselves out there. Don't buy too many meme coins. And the Oracle is back tonight in 9 hours' time. Tune in for the Oracle. And I will see you all in the morning. Take care, Binanceans. Take care, YouTubers. I don't know what you're called. Ciao.